Hello out there, this is Bob with Thrive Wellness. This is our first lunch and learn on exercise. Move more, it all counts. This was initially done in person. I'm re-releasing this in electronic format as well for anyone that wasn't able to make it in person. And I'll apologize up front. I had James Earl Jones all lined up to do the voiceover, but he canceled at the last minute, so you guys are stuck with me, unfortunately. So the topic today is exercise. And when we think about exercise, two things often come to mind. We think of exercise and what it can do to help us maintain our weight and make us strong. This Lunch and Learn and this topic is all about all the unique benefits that we get from exercise that maybe aren't discussed too often. So we'll look at exercise, chronic disease, and health habits and what impact exercise has on those items. We'll look at exercise as possibly being as beneficial as medications in controlling certain chronic diseases. Can exercise slow down the aging process? We'll look at exercise and cognition, or our thought process. So strong body, strong mind. We'll look at exercise and its ability to help with things like depression and anxiety. Longevity and quality of life with age. Can exercise help from those standpoints as well? And if we're looking to get more active, there's no time like the present. So where do I start? Chronic disease and health habits. For decades, a debate has raged about what causes chronic diseases in our society. Is it due to environmental factors? Is it genetics, or is it lifestyle? So currently 50% of the US population has some chronic condition. 25% has two or more chronic conditions. So when we look at all the research that is out there, what we see now is that lifestyle plays the largest role by far in determining our ability to avoid chronic disease and really maximize our health and wellness over time. This statistic is from the Centers for Disease Control. So if we were able to eliminate just 3 lifestyle risk factors: poor diet, lack of exercise or physical activity, which we'll talk about today, and smoking, we could prevent 80% of heart disease, 80% of type 2 diabetes, and 50% of cancer. I find these statistics just startling. I mean, when you think of how many of these conditions have impacted our lives, either personally or a friend or family member being impacted by these conditions, just know that you have so much more control than you may have thought previously. Chronic disease prevention and treatment with exercise. So there is a growing national movement called Exercise is Medicine, whose goal is to focus on promotion of lifestyle medicine in the treatment and prevention of chronic conditions. So lifestyle medicine is the use of exercise, nutrition, and stress management as a primary means of not only treating but certainly preventing our chronic conditions in our society. So we'll take a look at a few of these chronic conditions, the first one being type 2 diabetes. So type 2 diabetes is a problem of insulin not being able to take the blood sugar out of the veins and cells and into the muscle tissue to be utilized for energy. So this is called insulin resistance. And this happens because the mechanism that accepts that insulin out of the blood and into the muscle, that mechanism is kind of globbed up by intracellular fat. So one of the things that exercise can do for us is help us to lose weight. And as we lose weight, we make that apparatus for accepting insulin into the bloodstream much more efficient, whether we are diabetic, non-diabetic, or have perfectly normal blood sugar levels. Exercise will make that insulin response much more efficient across the board. Certainly exercise can help us to prevent type 2 diabetes and be a primary defense and treatment of diabetes. Cardiovascular disease, another very common condition in our society. When we look at application of exercise to folks who have cardiovascular disease or issues with many of the risk factors, exercise improves those conditions across the board. So if we look at things like lipid values, so we talk about cholesterol, so exercise decreases the bad cholesterol that's most commonly associated with heart disease, that LDL. It also increases the good cholesterol, so that HDL cholesterol that is particularly heart healthy. Exercise actually increases that good cholesterol, which is a big factor in prevention of heart disease. Triglycerides, another risk factor for heart disease. Triglycerides, kind of a fatty lipid in the bloodstream. We all have a certain amount of it. It's totally normal. However, if it gets above a certain level, it can be a significant factor for heart disease. When we exercise, we're correcting the energy imbalance that causes those triglycerides to become elevated. So if we're taking in too many calories into the body or not burning off enough calories, what happens is the body will convert blood sugar into triglyceride, which becomes a storage component. So again, exercising can help correct that imbalance that exists with energy, help us lose weight, and help us certainly reduce those triglycerides. Blood pressure is another major risk factor for heart disease. As we exercise, we actually condition our heart to beat more efficiently. So it moves more blood through our veins and throughout our body with less force, and that actually lowers our blood pressure over time. When we're exercising, that reduces our resting heart rate. So across the board, our heart and vascular system is functioning more efficiently. Arterial flexibility is also enhanced when we're doing exercise. So when we look at cardiovascular disease treatment and prevention, exercise is a wonderful factor in helping us in those areas. Cancer, study after study will show that individuals who are active throughout their life stand about a 50% lower risk of developing some form of cancer. And when we talk about dementia and Alzheimer's, certainly the benefit that we get from exercise from a mental standpoint with the improvement in brain chemistry can help us reduce the risk of dementia and Alzheimer's. And that's one of the things that we're going to focus on here in just a moment. Cognitive function and exercise. So when we exercise, there is a growth factor that is stimulated and released into the brain. It's called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. A prominent neurosurgeon actually called it miracle grow for the brain because it has such a profound effect on brain chemistry and our ability to actually stimulate, grow, and repair neurons. So when we are exercising, we are actually growing our brain, which is a fact of the matter that has been seen in a variety of different studies. Another compound called irisin activates genes involved with learning and memory skills. So again, when we are active, when we are exercising, we are creating the right brain chemistry. We're stimulating the right environment to actually build and repair and produce neurons, and also help us learn, help our memory skills. So exercise improves cognitive function and our ability to think at any age, which also decreases the likelihood of dementia and Alzheimer's as we age. Can exercise help relieve depression and anxiety? So very similar to the improvements we see in cognitive function when we exercise regularly, we can also expect improvements in the same brain chemistry that is involved in helping to relieve depression and anxiety. There are an increase in neurotransmitters, especially serotonin and dopamine, that are involved in boosting our mood, making us feel good. Serotonin especially is involved with the sleep-wake cycle, namely the sleep portion of that sleep-wake cycle, and allowing us to drift off to sleep at night. So we do get a lot of benefits from those neurotransmitters in terms of making us just feel good and feel content. There's also an increased release of endorphins. So endorphins are similar to morphine, for instance, that is involved with relieving pain. Endorphins actually bind to the same receptor site that morphine does. So we get a kind of a euphoric sense. So if you've ever heard of somebody mentioning a runner's high, so that's very much what they're referring to. We get a calm, feel-good, euphoric state from exercise. And this also helps us deal with pain really throughout the body, and helps the body deal with stress. We also see an increase in circulation throughout the body when we exercise. Not only while we're exercising, but we see improvements in the vascular system and circulation regularly when we're active. So this is involved in moving nutrients, moving oxygen more efficiently throughout the body. So with these factors in mind, the body more effectively deals with stress. It can more effectively deal with anxiety. Our mood is elevated. We feel better. So when we think of all these things that exercise can do for us, there's no wonder that it can help us relieve stress and anxiety. Exercise and longevity. There's been a lot of research over the years about exercise's impact on longevity and how long we live, and certainly the quality of life as well. So regular exercise definitely can add years to your life. These few statistics here are from the Brigham Women's Hospital and National Cancer Institute. So this is a study that looked at brisk walking or equivalent exercise and the target subject's longevity over time. So they found that through this study, if you're averaging approximately 75 minutes per week of brisk walking or equivalent exercise, that can add almost 2 additional years to your life. 150 minutes per week of brisk walking or equivalent exercise will add almost 3.5 years to your life. If you're able to maintain a healthy body weight and walk an equivalent of 150 minutes per week, that's going to add 7.2 years to your life. And when you look at a 75 and 150 minutes, those time frames are very well correlate with the American Heart Association's recommendations on physical activity. So definitely not outside the realm of possibility, and in fact, very doable for most people.